Hello everybody, I am making some yummy food, that's about done. And while I've been cooking, I've been listening to Ben Shapiro's book on Audible called Lions and Scavengers. And really well explained, described, worded, reasoned. Let's see if I can grab that. There you go. Yay. Book. And he was just there talking about something, and I'm gonna take you guys outside for a second. Oh, hi, Miss Luna. Here you go. There's our beautiful outdoors. So I'm gonna make this pretty quick, I think. Look at that. In short, you should listen to the book. But in the book, there's the idea of lions and scavengers, right? And lions. So it's interesting when people are talking about the motivational effects of capitalism. So the motivational effect of capitalism, one of them is that if a person decides they're going to, I'll flip it around so you can see me. I think you can see me. If a person decides they're going to do something with their time and they're going to build something, create something, earn profits, start a business, so on and so forth, then under modern day capitalism, you have recognized legal rights within society to hold on to and keep that which you create. Now, when it comes to sort of, I'm going to just go with the traditional concept of socialism. There's two things. There's social programs, which have existed in all societies. Charity exists in all societies. And I don't think I've ever read of a single, and I've studied history for like 40 years now, I guess, really been fascinated by it. I don't think I've ever encountered a society that didn't have a blend between private charity and government-funded charity. So that exists no matter what. Those are called social programs. But then there's another concept of socialism, which is where the government takes over control of the means of production. In other words, it means that the government's going to come along and do a lot of social engineering, and that they will disregard the rights of the worker, ironically. If that worker is not in service to the government, if that worker is not being employed by someone else, if that worker is actually the person who is working to create their own business, to bring their dream to fruition, it's their idea, they've invested the capital to get it started, right? That's where the term capital, we get that idea. But they are like, hey, mom, you have this property, and I'd like to ask that you allow me to invest a bunch of my resources, my energy, and my time, my labor, my life into trying to create something here that will produce products that people need, that we can then sell to other people, so that if we put in this amount, we hope we're going to get out that amount because there's a profit margin. And so then, but unfortunately, you get to a point where you're here, you've created something, and then the government comes in and says, hey, that's really cool, we like that. But either they come in at the beginning of socialism and say, well, we're now going to just take that from you, and we're going to take control of this, and you now become a worker for the state because we now own and control this thing you created. The other option happens in the middle, and this is where you don't even get the chance to create something on your own. In fact, your mom may no longer own her property, even if she paid for it, because the government is actually, taken that property over for the sake of the common good. And now everyone is working for a bureaucracy. I've done that. I've actually worked for the federal government. It's not all horrible, the people are good, but the system is rife with opportunity for abuse and extremely poorly run, in my experience. Anyways, so back to motivation though, because the point that Ben just made a second ago is that he was sort of saying, in capitalism, you have an authentic, natural, healthy motivation to pursue a goal because you know that if you achieve it, you get to keep it. It's yours, it won't be taken from you. And then he was saying, I'm paraphrasing, this is what I'm hearing, that in socialism, that motivation is lacking. And that because there's no motivation to build something, because if you build it, it can be taken away from you because it's not really yours to begin with, then you as a human lack that motivation, and therefore you will be less innovative, less creative, less hardworking. Okay, so my main point is this, and that is because he got to this point where he sort of was saying that, but it's your responsibility whether you do things or not. So for this moment in this sentence, he was like, well, that's your responsibility how you respond. And he's in the scavenger part sort of right now of the book. Well, the same thing is true of, quote, the lions. So my point being, if you're unfortunate enough to be born into a socialist system, you actually still have the obligation and responsibility to figure out how to motivate yourself to live your own life as best you can, to be as creative and as productive as possible. If you're born in North Korea, where your creativity is going to get you killed, you might have to do it in your head. You might have to do it in the dust and then wipe it clean so no one sees it. You might have to make something and then burn it so that you protect yourself. But you should not say, I'm incapable of artistic creativity because of this exterior force to me, whether it's the North Korean government, whether it's the Chinese government, whether it's, anything else, that it might be harder, much, much, much harder. But we are born on the planet. We are born where we are born in the time we are born in. And no matter what is hard or easy, it is what it is. And there's a saying that Charlie Kirk, about an hour and a half before he was murdered, maybe 2 hours before he was murdered, was interviewed. And I wrote about this in my article in the Vashon Loop for the month of, I think it was the month of October. September or October. I think it was October. And he's, so this saying he had, which was, this too shall pass. And he explained in that interview 2 hours before he died why that's one of these primary things he keeps in mind in his life. He did when he was alive. And I have been saying this too shall pass for 2 decades at least, like a long time now. And another one similar to that really sits well with me, that just grounds me, calms me down, empowers me, is it is what it is. I can get up in the morning and maybe I'm dealing with an injury, or maybe I'm sick, or maybe things are going badly, or I'm not achieving goals I want to achieve. And I could slip into regretting past decisions. And I go, but that's the past. That is something to learn from. And in this moment, it's sort of irrelevant because it is what it is. I'm starting right now. Today is the first day of the rest of my life. Every minute is the first minute of the rest of your life. So it is what it is this way of being like, well, let's accept reality. It is what it is. Now, what will you do with it? So I personally believe that I completely agree with our human right to personal property, private property. And I believe that government is so bad at what it does so often. I want to see it in charge of less and less and less going forward. And so that I might lean that way. And I believe that our human nature, God-given or Mother Nature-given, however you think of it, that our human nature thrives best in a situation where if we pursue something and we catch it, we have the opportunity to keep it. If I go out hunting and I catch a deer, or I go foraging in the forest and I find mushrooms, I spent my time like the deer who walks around eating what it eats while it walks. I walked around collecting in my collecting bag mushrooms. Then I get to come home and I have this beautiful opportunity. I can eat the mushrooms alone. I can eat the mushrooms in front of other people and not share. I can give the mushrooms to a neighbor who I know really likes them more than I do. I can invite some friends over and make mushrooms and share with everyone. I can do lots of things with it, but I get to choose what to do. I can piss people off. I can make people happy. I can make myself happy. I could throw the mushrooms into the woods, break them up a whole bunch and scatter them around, hoping to spread them so that I get future mushrooms growing in my own forest. I could feed them to the deer. I can do whatever I want because I went out and I got those mushrooms with my body's labor, time, and energy. So all those motivations, then, that's where our character comes forward. That's where morals come forward. That's where consequences happen. If you eat it in front of your friend or your housemate or your son and they're like, oh, can I have some? You go, no, sorry. If you want him, you have to go in the forest, get him yourself. Well, the next time that person has time and they choose to go in the forest, they come home with mushrooms, what's the consequence? They're probably not gonna share. Or the opposite happens. You do share and then they share. But this is human life. This is awesome. What's not awesome is if there's some government authority that's going to come in and be like, well, we've decided we're going to micromanage absolutely every aspect of life. And so we've decided that anyone who goes out foraging in the forest and finds mushrooms, well, you get taxed on that. So you have to go first to get a permit. You got to pay for the permit to be allowed to walk around in the forest, over there. Okay. And I'm not talking about someone who's doing this as a business and they're going to trash a forest, and go off and sell for profit. I'm talking about literally this happens in something happened recently in Canada, or maybe it was Australia, but like personal people wandering around, picking an apple off a tree, picking huckleberries, getting nettles. There are a lot of things I eat out of my forest. Oh, what was it? Canada made it a crime for Canadians to walk around in their forest for some reason a couple months ago. I don't remember why, but once again, so, the idea that they're like, oh, you have to get a permit, and then whatever you find, you're obligated to come back. You have to weigh it. We're only open certain hours, and you have to bring it in and weigh it. And then we're going to decide what percentage of that you can keep for yourself and your family, and the rest is going to be taken by the government and given over to the food bank, because this is the problem with people who want to make the world perfect by using the power of government to make a million rules to control how other people behave, because they think that then they can make the world perfect. You're never going to make the world perfect. And all you've done is created a giant bureaucracy of a whole bunch of work, and I'm not going to go pick those stupid ass mushrooms if I have to jump through 5 hoops to do it. I'll just stop eating the mushrooms. Now, another person might say, I'm going to jump through all those hoops, spend 75% of my time on government bureaucracy, 25% of the time finding mushrooms, because I want to be a good person. And then when I go in, I'm going to be like, hey, just give it all to the food bank, because I'm a morally great person, and I'm retired and I have free time, and I want to feed the hungry. But you know what? If they hadn't spent 75% of their time going into that office, getting permits, weighing things down, and they'd just been in the forest, and then they'd walk to the food bank and handed it over to the people who volunteer there, you'd have more mushrooms for the hungry. So, anyways, I'm gonna go. There's some yard of noisy birds. Noisy birds. I have a big busy day. I just did a bunch of cooking. So I have food to eat all week when basically I get up, go to work, come home, go to bed. And now I'm going to go work in the garden. I've got someone coming to help me. And I also have a family that's coming back to the island that had sold a bunch of furniture to move to Idaho. Then they decided to come back and they didn't have a bunch of furniture. And I said, hey, I got some furniture. So they're going to come over and I'm going to give them some furniture for free, no charge. Look how beautiful that is. And you know what? I don't have to go to the government and get a permit to be given permission to be allowed to donate my furniture to a family that needs it. We just get to do it quietly on our own. No government permission required.